I keep making a statement, you can even make a phone call on them.
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
That's what they're supposed to be for.
Yes.
Ooh,
I sit down, I guess you can get ready and get going, huh?
no problem. I'm cool, calm, and collected this morning. Good morning. Good to see everybody here this morning. Hey, Mark. I'm fine, thank you, brother-in-law. And first, we want to go over our announcements and prayer list. Of course, today is our Friends and Family Day. We hope that we get a few friends and family besides the usuals. Remember, we're into the summer postponements, but we are still having the story time tomorrow morning and the family Bible activities Wednesday night, new convert studies Friday morning. And see, today is the 17th, so 2 weeks from today is our coffee and donuts morning. Concerning those who are sick, I'm going to add, well, Shelba's already on the prayer list, but she's not here this morning because she's not feeling well. We have a tragedy in our area. A little boy, Bo D'Amico, 2 months old, passed away suddenly. And Rob and Kara know that family. I got that information right? Yes. Okay. So we know how tough that situation is going to be. So remember them. Gary Yoho had his surgery. He's still in ICU, but we are hopeful that he will recover. Brenda Smith-Bauer is between a rock and a hard place. She needs open heart surgery, and the doctors are saying if she doesn't get it, she only has about a year to live. So she has some decisions to make. And right now she's in Florida. All right. Anybody have any other? Hey, anybody have any other announcements? Yes.
Just an update with me. Tomorrow morning I'm going for an ultrasound on the thyroid. They found cancer in the thyroid, so I'm going for an ultrasound so they can determine if it's spread or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand it all. But basically, I guess it's a pre-surgical ultrasound, so they'll take that out. And then the next week I'll be going for an ultrasound because from the masses that were on both sides of the parotid gland, it'll be a surgeon that I'm going to see so they can go ahead and take both of those masses out on those sides.
Okay, so where are you going tomorrow?
West Penn.
West Penn Hospital, okay.
Same with the other, it'll be West Penn, the surgeon up there, so some kind of otolaryngologist, something.
Okay,
And the other prayer request is, I guess she's been removed, but my friend Tammy Justinson,
okay,
she's had now multiple surgeries on the brain from the cancer, but now they found that it's moved back to her lungs and the adrenal glands, and now her fiance, Junior, they originally found it in his adrenal glands, but now the most recent CAT scan is it's spread throughout his body, so we're kind of waiting to see.
okay. First, you mentioned about Tammy. Tammy has cancer too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And her fiance's name's Harmon Kidd.
Harmon Kidd.
So it's kind of a double whammy in that family. I'm not sure who's taking care of who.
Right.
Right
Okay,
now. Harmon can we call him Junior. He can't even talk, so it's.
okay. Okay, anything else from anybody? All right. I mentioned Gary Yoho, right? Okay. Any other updates at all? Okay,
Well, I might have to be getting a phlebotomy. A phlebotomy. I don't know, something about where they're gonna take blood out.
okay.
Something from my blood.
I thought a phlebotomy was when they take your brain out.
Something with your liver, the blood, something.
Okay. All right. We'll just say Gwen is in for repairs.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of them.
All right. If nothing else, let's bow for a word of prayer. Father, we're thankful for this beautiful morning, grateful for your love for us, for you sending your Son to save our souls, and for providing us a guiding light through this life of sordid decisions. And we pray that you would help us, Father, help us to stick close to you, especially in the tough times. Help us to put you first in our decision-making process. And pray also that you'd be with these ones that we've just mentioned who are sick, be with Gwen and her problems, and her friends who are both been diagnosed with cancer. We're thankful that Gary Yoho's surgery went well, but we know he's not out of the woods yet. Pray that you would indeed be with him, that you'd be with Shelba. She's not feeling well today, and please bless her, and please be with the family of this little child who has died, with the D'Amico family. Just all kinds of heartache everywhere, and we know it's a very hard time to get through, and we ask more than anything else for your special loving care for this family. Please bless them. Please bless us as we go through this Bible class. Help us to be ever attentive to your word and to be figuring out how we can apply it to our lives, and to realize and have a true estimation of who we are, and making sure that we are following your straight and narrow instructions. Please be with us now in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We are in Matthew 5. We are going to do something a little bit different this morning. I decided, in light of the subject matter, that we would skip to the end of the chapter. We'll come back next week to chapter verse 27, but for this morning, we're going to go to chapter 5 and verse 43. Still studying about the Sermon on the Mount, still looking at these subjects, and this subject here in particular about loving your enemies, which is a challenging subject sometimes. And so we would do us well to heed Jesus' teachings on this subject on the Sermon on the Mount and see if we can grasp as much as we can grasp from it. We are familiar with the usual openings to each one of these sections. Verse 43 is no different. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Now, let's just stop right there and look at number 1 on your outline that's in the bulletin and see what the old law says about this love and hate situation. First of all, let's look at Leviticus 19 and verse 18. Leviticus 19 and verse 18, right here, right off the bat, Moses is leading the children of Israel and trying to get them to the promised land, but he has something to say about love and hate. Would somebody like to read that? Leviticus 19 and 18.
Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
And of course, you recognize that secondary statement from what Jesus also has to say about this. But the whole point is that you are not to have vengeance, not to bear a grudge. Now, it's specified against the children of your people, but the general point, overall point, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Now, any ideas about why God stuck that last phrase in there? I am the Lord. I can tell you're not a talkative bunch today. What's going on? What?
The leaders, the Jewish leaders, were allowed to write different, they were allowed to add different rules. They wanted to make sure they understood this rule directly came from God. This wasn't one that they added.
Okay. I know where you're going with that, yes. And they needed the emphasis that this is directly from God, especially on the tough rules. You know, God is saying not to take vengeance, not supposed to bear a grudge, but how often do we do this today? How often do you think they did it? Daily. Right. You know, my favorite joke about that is that we all think that we're Mary Poppins, perfect in every way. But that is not the case. We do have vengeful feelings, hateful feelings. We just think. I was not talking to a guy not too long ago. He just thought that's what it meant to be a man. You know, you do me wrong, I'm going to hammer you. And so it is still alive and well. And then flip over to Psalm 139. Anybody know what Psalm 139 is? What did we learn in Psalm 139 that we don't learn very much of anyplace else in the Bible? Pardon? Okay, God's awareness. God is everywhere. We cannot escape him, okay? And so when we get to Psalm 139 and read verses 19 through 22, in this case, this is, and David wrote this psalm, but David says, "Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, therefore, you bloodthirsty men, for they speak against you wickedly. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate them, O Lord, who hate you? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with a perfect hatred. I count them my enemies." So, would that fit in with Jesus' teachings? Of course, we haven't read that far yet, but you already know. You have heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." That's what they used to say. But now, let's go ahead and go back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." And so, we have this opened up. What Jesus is after, this is the true instructions. Yes, we used to hate our enemies, but now I want you to love them. So Jesus puts that in 3 different ways. Question number 2 in your bulletin. What are the 3 ways I mentioned in verse 44? Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Easiest instructions in the Bible, right? Okay. No, perhaps the most challenging for us as Christians. And so we need to jump on this and figure out, first of all, I really think for Christians even, first of all, we have to decide, is this worth following? Or if some bimbo cuts me off at the intersection today, I'm going to shake my fist out there at him and okay, so obviously, like I said, Jesus has said this, and so we, there's no arguing with it. I just don't see that. And people, and especially Christians, who think, well, that's what it says, but we want to be really careful about doing that. What do you all think? Do you think all Christians agree with Jesus?
Unfortunately not. I think we talk about being different from the world, and here's probably one clear way that we're living like Jesus is teaching here instead of what probably our natural response would be. I think that's where we're clearly different, and as you mentioned, it's not easy. It goes against our nature. I think back on September 11th. It was almost a righteous. I'm righteous if I hate those guys. Right. That's not what Jesus is saying here. We can hate what happened, and we can be disgusted that innocent people died, but for us to prolong and continue the hatred that was perpetrated on us is not what Jesus is saying here. But it's probably what we all did and what we all felt.
Yeah.
And we felt like it's probably justified in feeling that way.
Yeah.
But when you step back Was there a better attitude? I don't know. But it's hard. Like you said, when people do us wrong, our society says, get them back. Get them back harder than what they wronged you. And
Yeah, I mean, we know we're talking about a very hard thing, especially when you, Keith touched a nerve with that. Before my son went over to the Middle East, that we had a long talk about, what the goal of the U.S. military was, and what the goal of the in that case, Iraq and Afghanistan. It is very hard because you have to. Well, let's put it this way: I was a mailman for a long time, and I was never bit. And I discovered there's only one way to not get bit for sure. You want my? Exactly. That is the truth. You want that. If you have a dog that might or might not, but he's exhibiting some mean characteristics, he needs to know that I am willing to kill him. All there is to it. And as soon as you get back from that, well, then you're asking to be bit. And it's the same thing. It's always the same. And so it presents some very difficult choices to make in this. The three ingredients here in verse 14, in loving our enemies, blessing those who curse us. I don't know if you've ever had anybody mad at you, but when that happens, again, and the big thing about being able to accomplish this is your own emotions. When you are used to, I grew up with 3 brothers, and we were constantly going at it. And so, you learn early on, either he's going to beat me up, or I need to take some kind of stand. There wasn't mom and dad weren't going to be around to save me. I've got 5 minutes to figure out, what the situation here is. So, we duke it out and all that kind of stuff. But still, it still comes down to that. When we feel threatened, what's the old saying, the old psychology statement? Fight or flight, okay? And we measure up, hopefully we can go days, weeks, months, maybe years without even feeling it at all. But, sometimes it happens and we have to figure out what we're going to do. So, Jesus is saying, here's my instructions on how to handle those situations. Now, let's see what you can do. So, verse 45. We do those things that he says in verse 44, verse 45, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. And this is where this kind of takes a turn, because it's not just about us. Who are we learning about here? In verse 45. We're learning about something bigger than ourselves. And who is that? Exactly. You do the right thing, verse 44, and then you find, that you are, we become more and more like the sons of God. And what is this attribute of God that helps us at the end of verse 45? He makes his sun what? Right. So God is out there treating everybody. Of course, we know that this is not to say that there's not going to be a final judgment. There is going to be, but just from day to day, we see how God treats people. and he cares for them and takes care of needs. And so so Jesus is pointing at this. Here's we want to love our enemies. This is one of the reasons why. This is what God is doing with His creation. He made it all. And so we need to maybe be a little more like this sometimes. All right, I lost sight of my questions. Oh, let's look at Luke 6:35. I think I even put it up here on the screen.
Before we go further.
Go.
Don't get mad.
You mean like that bear?
I know he's a teacher, but I don't think we can forget what David was talking about. He never said anything about people who hate him. He was saying, I hate the folks that hate you,
Okay.
meaning God. I'm not saying to hate people, but I am saying you have to treat them and think of them differently.
Oh, definitely.
Because, I guess, well, it's Keith's fault too, because he brought up 9/11. But the worst thing I think I could possibly do, we all have good things and whatever, abilities or whatever, talents. I think the worst thing I can think of that I could ever do to my family or my grandkids is when I think of Josie, letting her grow up in a nation or in a community that has Sharia law, and she would be stoned if she showed her hair because she didn't follow a false god. Okay? That is totally different than someone who cuts me off in traffic or
Okay.
anything else. We're talking false gods here.
Yeah.
He is never wishy-washy on that. So I'm not saying to hate the folks, but I am saying to hate what they do, and you have to treat it differently. So
Yeah, well, and this whole thing, this whole thing about it happening in our country is kind of new to us. We're not used to enemy. I mean, we should be used to it because China's been working on us for years. But anyways, when you read in the news about them instilling a law from over there here, should we take this a little more seriously?
New York just elected one as a mayor.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Worships a false god.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, it's happening.
Yeah.
So we have to take it a little bit, you have to think in broad
Mm-hmm.
terms. You can't just love them, but
Yeah.
be careful.
But, and then of course we can take it too far. I'm going to, I don't know, I don't think I've seen anybody in New Brighton with a turban on. Any of you? I've seen them other places. Okay, Pittsburgh. All right. So, we take it too far when, anybody with a turban, I'm out to get them. That because they're not all Muslims. Over in India, they have all kinds of religions. They're not Muslim. They wear turbans and stuff like that. So again, it's so much easier if you would just wear a uniform that says what you're. But it doesn't happen that way. So we have to continue to, do the best we can. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that's where it becomes so difficult, because I think we're called to, even in those difficult situations, to pursue justice and to stand up for what's right. But doing that without crossing the line where everybody that has a turban on or everybody that looks like those people do,
Yeah.
that now I am hateful toward them just because of the way they look or the way they dress.
Yeah.
That's where
It,
that's where we definitely.
it is. I mean, it is really hard. And, when the ladies are running around with what do they call the all black, I don't even know what it's called, but, wearing the full veil and, there's no mistake, that they don't agree, with us, but how do we deal with it? And then if you pay attention in the, I don't know about around here, but down south and other places I've lived, if you go into a convenience store, who is running the convenience stores? Have you noticed?
Every few blocks.
Okay, and it's usually somebody from, the Far East. Somebody is from India or whatever. I'll ask them a lot of times. I'll ask them from where they're from. And again, I don't know what they're up to, but again, it's a little bit unsettling, when you're not used to that. And
There's a big difference between hate and tolerance and acceptance and
right,
things like that. Like, we get it kind of excused sometimes that you're being accused of hating someone that you're actually just not allowing to push their agenda on you or hurt you or your family or whatever. I mean, defining hate is the first step, I think, in hating or not hating and that sort of thing.
yeah, and like there are a lot of different levels to this, and we are, let's face it, we're going to have to. It's likely. I don't think that the current administration is going to clean up all this stuff, but it's likely going to be with us more and more and more as time goes. So, but I think we're making a mistake in here, and we're taking it that far, because most of our day in, day out relationships and the hatred situations aren't because of somebody, from a couple thousand miles away. Do you think we have problems with people who live in our own neighborhoods? Sure. We can have problems with them. And so we could spend the whole time talking about, these foreigners, but it's really, there are hateful people everywhere, and it's something I had to deal with, when I was a mailman. You can try to be as nice as you possibly can be, but people still get a little uppity sometimes. You have to learn to deal with that. Okay, now I put this bear here on the wall because of how we are. How easy is it for us to come down from a high energy negative situation?
It's not easy not to mirror back what you get.
Okay, mirroring back. Am I the only one who has a hard time getting my cool back? Gwen?
I tend to stay in my apartment unless I'm going to a doctor's appointment and have to go to the store, because I've just become so angry, period, because I find you can't even go anywhere. I mean, you just try to be friendly and say hi to people and just good morning and just, and it's like.
Are you sure you stay? I see you more than anybody else running around town.
I mean, yes, I started going to the Y for my thing, but that's, I mean, I actually myself have started exploring within the year to move out of the country, because it's just become so people unfriendly and don't want to, be very socially
Right.
friendly. Me, I have a very comical, humorous behavior, a little bit out of the abnormal. People say I'm weird, whatever. They very judgmental of my humorous behavior, and it's like I'm constantly you people are just looking at you like,
Right. Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's like, what?
we do want to try to, get a handle on this. Luke 6:35 is an excellent, actually, it may be of the same kind of situation, may be a Sermon on the Mount related, or Sermon on the Plain, whatever. But what Jesus says here follows right in line. But love ye your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great, and you shall be the children of the highest. For he, again, the same point here at the end of the verse. What's God like? He's kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. And so, that's our goal, to be like this, and to be making these comparisons. And the whole idea here, and it's question number 5, Jesus points out if we are nice to those who are nice to us, we're just like everyone else. What word does Jesus use to describe the level of spirituality we attain when we obey his instructions here? And, we have verse 46, for if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? Verse 47, same thing. If you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so. And then verse 48, he puts the lid on it. Therefore you also be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. And so that's what we're trying to do. Trying to climb a step higher, be a little more like God. Try not to, if we do lose our temper, our I'm not going to, I don't know if instant is right, but usually we react to this instantly and try to, make ourselves look better than maybe we actually are. But again, it's this goal that we are supposed to be pursuing the perfection of God. And again, it sometimes is not easy. All right. Anything else you want to say about this?
Isn't that the difficult line to cross, how to be kind when people see kindness as weakness, try to exploit your generosity?
Right, and that's a good point that Mark just brought up, because he mentioned how people interpret kindness. That just means you're a weak person.
They want to try to take advantage of you, and there's a limit to how much you can give to somebody before you got to look.
Yeah, and of course the greatest example of all this is Jesus himself on the cross. How would you describe Jesus' feelings on the cross based on what he said? Right. Right. What's your point?
Can't forgive someone who rejects you. Can't show kindness to someone who doesn't want it.
Right. But the point I'm making is that Jesus, you figure you're hanging on the cross, you're in the greatest pain you could ever be in. Where are all of your feelings going to be? On you. I'm dying here. But Jesus, even on the cross, he rises above this. He's got the one who wants to be, welcomed into his kingdom next to him, and so and his statement here, he wants God to forgive them, and so again we plug ourselves into this slot. Is this how I would behave? Is this how I would behave? I don't know how often, or if ever, you've been falsely accused of anything, but to me, at least, it is one of the cruelest cruelest things that you can do to me is to falsely accuse me. Okay, I make mistakes, you know, the person accuses me of those mistakes, fine. But, you know, to be falsely accused is a whole different story. And was Jesus on the cross because of he deserved that? No, not even close. So, you know, to me, that's a biggie. You know, he doesn't deserve to be here. And so, you know, how is he going to react? And then, you know, question number 8, how does his example show us how to hate sin but love the sinner? He went to the cross because of what? His own sin? Okay. And so there you have it. And that's, you know, what we're supposed to be like. So, then the question is, we got 5 minutes. Question is, well, how can I incorporate this into my life? How can I do a better job of you know, loving God, loving goodness, but also loving my enemies? And so we'll look at one passage, 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through the beginning of verse 8. All of these descriptions of love should help us, you know, at least, you know, begin to generate this, you know, solution to doing better in this department, helping us to love love the sinner. And so let's just kind of read down through here. And up on the screen is a paraphrase. I don't know if that's a Bible version or what, but anyways, what things in this section 4 through 8a would help us the most to love the sinner?
Patience is one.
Okay? You know, you have to give some people time, you know, people that are not making good choices in their life. And so there needs to be a certain amount of patience involved. Okay? Any other ideas?
I think the love is not arrogant is good to think about, just thinking like remembering our place and what we've been forgiven for, in terms of whether that's like how other people are treating us or any number of things. Just remembering where we are in terms of God and how much He's given us. Back to that, I think we talked about it last week. Just the idea
Right.
of an ungrateful servant and remembering how much we've been forgiven for.
Jesus talks about that little problem that we might have more than once. You know, we appreciate that God has loves us, is willing to forgive us, but the question is, well, are we willing to show the same thing? Okay, anything else?
I think love takes into account when people is hard. I think sometimes people carry around little tally marks, like, you know, or things that person wronged me, this person wronged me.
I thought that's why they invented cell phones. Right, we can do that. You don't need a cell phone to do that, but we can easily do that.
I think the pride thing, there's a lot of times that we go to correct a brother, and it's not even so much that we're trying to correct their wrong. It's I think there's sometimes that there's just a little bit of we want to be more right. I'm sorry, I'm running like 3 hours of sleep. But, there's sometimes that verse in Corinthians that I can speak the tongue of angels and of all high
Yeah,
things. If I don't do
it's the
it
beginning of this chapter.
if I don't do it out of love, then it's just a clanging cymbal.
Right.
And then there's sometimes that we want to correct somebody just because we want to set them right, as opposed to like actually wanting to help them, if that makes sense.
Genuinely interested in their soul. Okay. Yes, we want to be sincere in that regard. You raising your hand? Okay, so we take all these things into consideration. We will be a step closer.
Sorry, I was gonna jump in on, when we were in 46, those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same. I think, I just feel obligated to go back to the discussion on Islam and folks working in, convenience stores. That conversation made me a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like all of those are kind of like the details of what that verse is talking about. If we are just loving those that love us, that we feel comfortable with, that do no wrong, that we have fun with, that's not Christian at all. Love that's Christian love is full acceptance of the souls of those around us. Not of the sin, like what you've been saying, but, the convenience store, that struck a nerve with me because I have felt that twinge of discomfort. What's changing here? This isn't the same comfort, and there's this immediate wall that goes up. And I think that is like a twinge of worldliness in our lives that I think as Christians we have to be very mindful of and resist that and show a love that is active and accepting of all, regardless of what they believe, where they come from, what they've done to us, kind of all of that.
After my son was shot over there, I think the very next week, and I don't remember where we were. I think were we living over in Ohio? Anyways, the very next week, I go into a convenience store, and this guy waits on me with a full turban, and where my feelings were, really, it was pretty bad. So there are things that we struggle with and we need to always be working on. And so we just need to make it our goal to do it. And we're 3 minutes late. And Keith, you wanted to say something, I know.
Chapter 6 that you touched on, just talking about God. God is grateful, for he himself is kind to ungrateful and evil men. Do we really believe that? Do we believe that God is kind to people that are ungrateful and even evil?
Yeah.
Because I think we oftentimes justify our own actions toward people because, well, that's how God dealt with people even.
Right.
And I think we might need to readjust. God views himself as being kind to evil people. And so maybe we ought to also.
Thank you for your input today.